This video is on auto maintenance, and I'll be covering a few different topics that I think are very important to know. Also, big thank you to Rick Broadwater for helping me out with this video. To start off, I'll be talking about changing a tire. For this procedure, you'll need your owner's manual, wheel wedges, a lug wrench, and a jack. All of these should be in the back of your car, with the exception of the wheel wedges, which may not be there. In the video I'm demonstrating, I don't have the wheel wedges, but you'll definitely need to buy them. First, you want to put your vehicle in park with the emergency brake on and apply the wheel wedges to stop the car from rolling. Next, remove the hubcap or wheel cover if you have it. In this case, I do not. Use the flat end of the lug wrench to remove it and consult your owner's manual for the correct procedure. Now, you're going to want to loosen the lug nuts like shown in the video. To do this, using the lug wrench, turn the lug nuts counterclockwise until you break their resistance, but don't remove them completely yet. Next, place the jack under the vehicle. Right now, we're unscrewing the jack so that way we can get it to fit underneath the vehicle. Now you're going to want to place the jack underneath the vehicle. Place it beneath the vehicle frame alongside the tire that's flat. Many vehicle frames have molded plastic on the bottom with a cleared area of exposed metal specifically for the jack. This is called the pinch weld. That's what we're looking for right now in this video. Follow the instructions for jack placement in your car's owner manual. Now you can see we're using the lug wrench to completely lift the jack so that way it's positioned into the pinch weld. To raise the jack, you can place your hand on the tire or the side of the car for stability and turn the lug wrench like shown so that way you can raise the car. With the jack properly positioned, raise the vehicle until the flat tire is about 6 inches off the ground. As you can see, I decided to try it out, and it's actually fairly simple. You don't need much strength for this part. Next, unscrew the lug nuts with the lug wrench, pulling them completely out of the tire. Now you don't have to remove them in any specific order, but you can see now that I'm trying to pull them out. Now you can remove the tire, holding it just like he's doing it in the video. Make sure to also set the tire on its side so it doesn't roll away. Now I know this isn't the spare tire, this is the same tire we've been using, we just didn't have a flat tire to work with, so we're just using the same tire. Now you're going to want to mount the spare tire on the lug bolts. Do this by placing the spare on the hub by lining up the rim with the lug bolts. Push gently till the lug bolts show through the rim. And then you're going to want to put the lug nuts back on the lug bolts and tighten them by hand while making sure the tire isn't off-center. Here he's just raising the car a little bit so that way he can move the tire properly to make sure it isn't on the ground. He's rocking it back and forth like this to make sure that it's not still on the ground. Now you can use your knees to hold the tire in center and in place so that way you can put the lug nuts into the tire. And you just screw them by hand. Now he's tightening the first one just so the tire can stay in place so that way he can put the rest of the lug nuts in. Again, make sure the tire is still centered and off the ground. Tighten the first one until it's just secure. Don't tighten it too much yet. Now you can screw the rest of the lug nuts in by hand. Something to note, when you're tightening them, make sure you're putting the lug nuts back on in a crisscross star pattern so the tire stays even. Then you'll tighten the lug nuts with a wrench, turning clockwise. Don't tighten them too much though, just enough so they're secure. As you can see, he's going from the top to the bottom right, and then you're going to go to the top left, and then top right, and then bottom left. Now check to make sure they're all secure. Now you can bring the vehicle all the way to the ground using the jack. Once it's on the ground, you can remove it. Now you can tighten all the lug nuts completely using all of your body weight. Make sure to follow the same crisscross star pattern as before. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling because I don't have that much body weight, but it's still pretty easy to do if you're on the side of the road by yourself. If you have someone with you, you can have them check to make sure that all the lug nuts are tightened completely. Now, if you have a hubcap, you can replace it. And finally, you can take your flat tire to a technician. Temporary spare tires aren't made to drive long distances or at high speeds, so drive cautiously until you're able to visit a tire technician. The next thing I'll be talking about is checking your tire pressure. First, I suggest that you check your car's owner's manual for the recommended tire pressure or check inside the driver's side door jamb like we are right here. For this car, it's 35 psi. Make sure your tires are cooled down before you check the pressure because tire pressure increases when the tire heats up from road friction. Now, there are two ways to check your tire pressure. You can check it anywhere, but you'll need a tire pressure gauge, or you can check it at a gas station. To check it anywhere, press the tire gauge against the valve stem in a swift motion, making a flat connection that seals completely, as shown here. Swiftly remove the gauge from the tire's valve stem after the stick pops or the dial moves. If you hear escaping air, stop, reset the gauge, and try again. Read the gauge to determine if the tire pressure is within recommended limits. If the pressure is lower than recommended, inflate the tire with an air compressor found at gas stations and service centers. This is what we're doing here. Check the pressure again to see if it's within limits, which actually, at gas stations, it will show you what your pressure is. If the pressure is higher than recommended, release air from the tire. Most tire pressure gauges have a small dot or bead on the backside that's designed to be pressed into the center of the valve stem, releasing air. Check the pressure again to see if it's within limits. To check the tire pressure at a gas station, you'll need to find a gas station with air machines. Pull the car up to the machine so that the machine is centered on your car. This way the hose is able to reach all the tires. Remove the air stem cap like we did here and pull the air hose over to the tire. Press the tip of the hose firmly on the stem for 2 seconds. And the built-in pressure gauge on top of the trigger assembly will extend a pressure reading bar. Add air if necessary by pressing the tip of the air hose down on the air stem and holding the trigger in. Wait a few moments, release the trigger, and remove the air hose. Check the tire pressure again. Repeat until you have the correct PSI level in your tire. Next, checking your fluid levels. First, you'll want to pop the hood and then find the release latch. This is what I'm doing here. Here, you see we're checking for the release latch, so that way the hood can be popped open. Now, open the hood and prop it up. The first fluid I'll be going over is engine oil. As you can see, he's pointing to it right there, and it has a little dipstick on the side that's yellow. It's best to check your oil after your engine has been turned off for at least 10 minutes so the oil can settle at the bottom and cool off. Most cars have a dipstick in the engine that lets you quickly inspect the oil. First, pull it out and wipe it clean with a towel or rag. Then, reinsert it and pull it back out. The dipstick is marked with maximum and minimum indicators that show how much oil is in your engine. The oil in the dipstick should be near maximum. If it's at or below minimum, add more. A low rating could mean your engine is leaking or burning oil. To check the oil condition, smear the oil in the dipstick between your fingers. It should feel slick and smooth, and if you notice any particles or grittiness, components are likely wearing down. Also look at the color. If it's a yellow or amber color, you're good to go. If it's darker coffee color or black, it's time for an oil change. If you see a milky color, that means the coolant is leaking into the engine. Now, when you're checking your oil level, one side might be higher if the car is at an angle, so we're checking the side that looks like it's between the minimum and maximum. The next fluid I'll be going over is the coolant. You only have to check this fluid every 50,000 miles or so, except if there's a leak or some other issue. Wait for the engine to cool completely before checking the coolant. This will take about 30 minutes. The process to check the coolant varies from car to car. If your car has a coolant expansion tank, look to see if the coolant falls between minimum and maximum indicators on the tank. Right now, he's touching the coolant tank. And if it doesn't have the indicators, open the radiator cap to see if the coolant is filled up to the top. Now the coolant is a pressurized tank, so as I said before, you're going to want to wait until the engine cools down before you open it. Before you add coolant, make sure it's a type approved for the vehicle and give the radiator a few minutes to release any trapped air bubbles before you put the cap back on. Right now, he's actually pointing to the minimum and maximum indicators, just so you know where they are. Next, you can check your windshield washer fluid. Sometimes it has a brightly colored cap with an image engraved on it. That's the yellow cap he's pointing to right now. The next fluid I'll be discussing is the brake fluid. If there's a delay in your braking or an abnormal feeling to your brake pedal, the fluid is the first thing to check. Most cars have a brake fluid reservoir in the engine bay, and checking it is as simple as taking a look at its level and color. Make sure the level falls between minimum and maximum indicators. Add more if it's below the minimum. Make sure the type is compatible with your car. It should be translucent and not cloudy or dark. If you can't see through your brake fluid, get it replaced. Right now, he's pointing to the brake fluid reservoir. Of course, every car is different, so these locations for the different fluids may be in different places on your car. Next, I'll be going over how to jump start a dead battery. First, you'll actually want to find the battery. Right now, he's holding the cover for it, and now he's pointing to the battery. The red is the positive and the black is the negative. First, you'll want to park the cars you'll use for jump starting next to the one with the dead battery. Turn off the ignition on both cars. You'll want to hook up to the dead car first. Clamp one end of the positive cable to the dead battery's positive clamp. Make sure not to touch the two ends together. The red clamp goes to the positive terminal. Now you're going to want to connect the black negative clamp to a random piece of metal on the car. The battery shown here is imitating the good battery on the other car. Connect the red clamp to the positive one and the black clamp to the negative one. Again, make sure to not touch the two ends of the cable together while doing this. As you can see, if you touch them together, it sparks. Next, you can start the rescue car that is providing the electricity. Start the car with the weak battery and let the problem car run for at least 20 minutes to allow the battery to recharge before shutting it off. Finally, you're going to want to disconnect the cables in reverse order. On the dead car, you'll always want to hook up the positive first. Then, when you're disconnecting, you're going to want to disconnect it in reverse order, so you're going to want to take off the negative first. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.